Why is the world the way that it is? Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to the Thunderdome. And as per usual, before we launch in, this video is sponsored by Kamikoto. And also by me. And my email list and my new merch store, which just dropped a couple weeks ago. There's many cool things for you to look at. I encourage you to do so and buy something if you so desire. But also it just helps me a lot when you subscribe to the email list on my website. I promise I don't send you annoying emails. That about sums it up. Okay, we can start the video now. Now, given that the last few videos I've made have definitely been adventures in depression, I thought that this video we could look on the brighter side of things and have a laugh. And by brighter side of things, I mean equally depressing stories, but rather than being sad about them, we can laugh at them instead. Because I think it's safe to say we all need a laugh. Much as I do enjoy making deep dives, and I do have a couple in the works at the moment, I also sometimes think it's nice to take a brain break and talk about mathematics being racist and how jacked the education system is. Now, to be clear, I could have subjected you to an entire video of this.
What do you mean we're lucky to be white?
It's not luck, it's privilege.
We're privileged that people see us, not a color.
Privilege that we don't get stared at when we walk into the room.
Privilege that we don't get followed by security when we go shopping. Or pulled over when we're in the wrong neighborhood.
We're privileged because society was set up for us, and our silence keeps it in place.
We're privileged, and that's unfair.
But alas, I could not find the original. So consider yourselves spared. You are indeed lucky. I might have tried to draw on my own face in Sharpie to prove a point. To fit in, you see, with the other privileged white people. I mean, we also could have discussed how not wanting to eat bugs makes you a racist. Even this guy doesn't look like he's enjoying himself. But instead, like I said, I want to talk about mathematics and how that is now woke as well. Because who would have thought that even numbers can be socially just? But before you once again enter the Thunderdome, let's hear from our sponsor, Kamikoto Knives. Look at this box. It is no ordinary box. It is filled with spicy hand pokers, also known as knives. Kamikoto makes beautiful Japanese steel knives. They are handcrafted, and their steel is sourced specifically from mills in Japan, making them exceedingly high quality. They also feel nice, and they're weighted, which I like. I like my pointed things to be weighted. Each knife comes with a heavy-duty ashwood box to make sure nobody is cutting their skinny skin, which coincidentally also makes them a lovely gift. Each knife is also individually inspected and comes with a lifetime guarantee. They also have a ton of options on the website, from utility knives all the way up to giant knives like this one. Now, I've historically had global knives, but I can definitively say that these feel so nice in my hand. And they're also super sharp, meaning I have now killed many onions, and I'm not sorry about it. So, Kamikoto is having a massive holiday sale. So click the link in the description or go to kamikoto.com/SydneyWatson for an additional $50 off any purchase when you use code SydneyWatson. Do this, and no more onions have to die. Now, I came upon this article from August saying that the governor of Oregon signed a bill ending reading and mathematics proficiency requirements for the graduation of high school students. People who support this bill argue that existing proficiency levels for maths and reading presented an unfair challenge for students who do not test well, with the governor's spokesman adding that the new standards for graduation would aid Oregon's Black, Latino, Latinx, Latinx, I don't know how this is pronounced, Indigenous, Asian, Pacific Islander, tribal, and students of color. Leaders from those communities have advocated time and again for equitable graduation standards, along with expanded learning opportunities and supports. Color me crazy, but I'm not so sure how letting kids graduate without knowing how to read and do maths is equitable. Also, why is Asian in that list? They're like really good at maths. Be careful, Sydney. They'll get you for doing a racism there. Back in February, the Oregon Department of Education encouraged teachers to register for training that encourages ethnomathematics. Yes, that's a real word. And argues, among other things, that white supremacy manifests itself in the focus on finding the right answer. What is happening? The concept of mathematics being purely objective is unequivocally false. and teaching it is even much less so. The document for the Equitable Math Toolkit reads, upholding the idea that there are always right and wrong answers perpetuates objectivity as well as fear of open conflict. Objectivity and fear of open conflict. Oregon. Are you do have a stupid? Now apparently this debate over racist maths has been going on all year. And I didn't even notice. Probably because I'm not in high school, and to be completely honest, I thank my lucky stars for that every day. If you think we're in hell now, try being a weird emo kid with 3 friends and braces. That's the special kind of hell. One that they don't advertise.
Heavy sigh.
So as per usual, I took it upon myself to look further into this topic and once again found out that the education system is in fact a giant joke. Take this one recent article, for example. It asks if math education is racist. Bolder recommendations to make math more inclusive are blowing up the world of mathematics education. Schools are collapsing math tracks to put kids of all abilities in the same classes and adding data science courses that carry the same prestige as calculus, long seen as a gateway to a career in STEM fields and elite colleges. I won't lie, inclusive math sounds genuinely horrible. And let's be real, we already know what inclusive everything else looks like. Kid drag queens. And whatever the hell this is. Another heated issue, the extent to which math education should include real-world problems involving racial and social inequities. What?
We do not fully understand what causes Alzheimer's disease.
Then there are websites like this, equitablemath.org, which is sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Fantastic. A pathway to equitable math instruction is an integrated approach to mathematics that centers Black, Latinx, and multilingual students in grades 6 to 8, addresses barriers to math equity, and aligns instruction to grade-level priority standards. The pathway offers guidance and resources for educators to use now as they plan their curriculum, while also offering opportunities for ongoing self-reflection as they seek to develop an anti-racist math practice. The first session is Dismantling Racism in Mathematics Instruction. And it goes without saying, this is a California thing. But of course, nobody's surprised by that. We then come across the idea that using 2 + 2 = 4 to show math's objectivity reeks of white supremacist patriarchy. An idea which, coincidentally, is supported by a bunch of mathematics professors and mathematics institutions. Because white supremacy is in fact a very pervasive issue.
We're privileged because society was set up for us.
This also led me to a concept called mathwashing. This website, mathwashing.com, tells us that mathwashing is when power and bias hide behind the facade of neutral math. Now, I have to admit, actually, some of this website makes sense, like this graphic, for example, and the idea that sometimes algorithms are programmed to suppress people. But that doesn't make the algorithm racist or whatever. That makes probably the people programming that algorithm maybe not nice people. Actually, this website effectively says that people thinking algorithms are neutral allows companies and organizations to escape responsibility and criticism. I'm looking at you, Facebook, with all your fact checkers who do so based on their own opinions. I just love that there's a term called mathwashing. What even is this time period? Anyway, there are plenty of official websites just like this one, many of which are either supported by teaching organizations or funded by government bodies. But really what's sad and humorous all at once about this kind of legislative action, as in the case of Oregon, is that they're effectively saying that if you're not white, you can expect to do worse at basically everything because you simply don't test well. And one would think that that's more racist than just, I don't know, expecting more of your students. What's funnier still is that these people seem to genuinely believe that removing proficiency standards for non-white kids will legitimately make things more equitable.
You keep using the word I don't think it means what you think it means.
Personally, I'm not super sure how this sets any kid up for success, particularly those who are interested in pursuing a higher education, including the trades. Because tradies matter too. They also do a lot of mathematics, and I hear it's very important to their jobs. An important part of this conversation too is that gifted programs are being cancelled all across the country, particularly in states like California, to nobody's surprise, meaning that all students are lumped in together regardless of their capabilities when it comes to the education system. The primary argument from the left is that poor and non-white kids aren't doing well in maths and haven't been for a long time, which means that they have less access to lucrative STEM fields, where they argue that the majority of workers are white and male. Because we can't have that. No whiteys allowed.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Insecurity, pretending,
Fear.
being fearful of nothing,
Being ignorant.
Blame.
letting their egos control their every move.
Privilege.
Feeling victimized.
playing the victim.
One would think that rather than destroying proficiency standards, and I will note here that we can have a conversation about how arbitrary a lot of these standards and, ways of measuring people are. I get that. I see that. But rather than destroying the standards that are in place, one would think that there's a better way of addressing this. I mean, the thing is, if you want your child or a child, your students, say, to go to university and then go into the STEM fields, one would think that having no qualifications doesn't set them up particularly well. I mean, going to university at all probably doesn't set you up particularly well. But you didn't hear it from me. Only from the millions of feminists complaining about how their gender studies degree was really expensive, but has no practical value. Now, writer Thomas Sowell has covered all of this before. The idea that affirmative action policies that are designed to help minority students really only assist in undermining them. He argues that in some cases, less fortunate members of a preferred group may actually regress while the more fortunate advance under preferential policies. After affirmative action policies took hold in the early 1970s, blacks with little education and little job experience fell further behind the general population, and indeed further behind whites with little education and little job experience. Meanwhile, blacks with college education or substantial job experience advanced economically, both absolutely and relative to whites with the same advantages. He writes too about a concept called mismatch hypothesis, the idea that, in the words of Sowell himself, put bluntly, many minority students with all the prerequisites for success would be artificially turned into failures because of this pervasive mismatching. Affirmative action promotes mismatching of students and institutions. Many minority students are encouraged to enroll in universities where the demands are too much for them. It is no favor to push students into institutions where they cannot succeed. A Princeton paper from 2012 basically confirms this, saying that as a result of race-based affirmative action, more Latinos and minority students enroll in selective colleges than would be the case if admission were based on only academic achievement. Meaning that you get into a school for the way that you look, then, as Sowell points out, you subsequently drop out of that school because you were there not based on your academic achievements, but because of the way that you look. And around we go. Now, I will add that university is not necessarily an indicator of intelligence. I think that the TikTok teachers have taught us that. But if someone does want to go to university for whatever reason, getting there based on physical appearance alone is probably not the best way to go about optimum achievement. Now, a Forbes article from 1997, when people could be real and honest, I guess, also explains that the average African-American student in 12th grade performs at about the same level as the average white student in 8th grade. This huge achievement gap is ominous for minority students because it means that many of those who graduate from high school have been pushed along from grade to grade by fraudulent social promotion policies. Many of those who enter college will have to take remedial courses, and even with remediation, many will discover that their inadequate schooling makes it nearly impossible to catch up or to graduate from college. Reading this from 1997 sort of tells me that as far as the education system goes, not a whole lot has changed. If anything, the proposed solutions to solve the issues within the education system are only making things worse. But I do think it bears repeating that anytime politicians try to make something better, they inevitably make it worse. And I think we have a case in point when we talk about the current social justice that is operating within mathematics. And in the end, I genuinely feel so sorry for students coming through the education system at present, particularly in the state of Oregon, and particularly those who are interested in many of the topics that are falling by the wayside. Usually I like to round these videos out with some sort of summary message, but I think this one is reasonably self-explanatory. I'm not sure why social justice has made its way into mathematics, but it's here, it shouldn't be, and I really do pity students coming through the education system. As a whole and collectively, I think that we need to do better. I think that we need to pay more attention, and I think we need to get this under control before it gets infinitely worse. Now, before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder that you can check out Kamikoto using the link in the description. Like I said, there is a massive holiday sale going on at the moment, and you can also get an additional $50 off any order when you use my code. Now, open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Is the education system a giant failure, like I feel like it is in a lot of ways? Is there a need for social justice in mathematics? What do you make of what Oregon's doing or what California's doing? Do you think that we're letting down students by making these things part and parcel of our education system? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you like the video, hit subscribe and the thumbs up button. If you want to leave a comment, feel free to do so. Just be respectful about it. And I will see you guys next time.